Hare Krishna, good morning. Omakyanatimanasya Chanslasalakya Chakshun Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhuttale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhaskachai Desatarini Srila Prabhupada ki. So in a few days, it's the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura. And today is the first class on the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I've done yesterday and the day before extensive research on the evidence in the scriptures that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That I also looked at the authenticity of the scriptures from a scholarly viewpoint. And the first scripture we will look at is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is by scholars known as the Bhagavad Purana. It's the topmost Purana of the 18 main Puranas. Scholarly, the Bhagavatam, the authenticity is a challenge to find the original or the historical date that Vyasadeva wrote it. Because according to the tradition, the Vedic knowledge has been transferred orally, verbally, and the Devanagari scripture, the writing, the Devanagari of the Sanskrit, so all this signs, alphabetic signs, or it are factually in Sanskrit, they are syllables that that occurred like a few thousand years ago. That's not so old, because before there was no need to write things down, because people had much better memories that And it was like in Satya Yuga, everyone was Shruti there, was hearing once and remembering for the rest of your life. An amazing capability, but in Kali Yuga, that's not there anymore. But scholarly, the Bhagavatam, there are temples in South India built around 700, 800 of our time calculation that this of the current area. And in these temples you find dioramas of all the pastimes in the Bhagavatam. That's already an indication that these pastimes were there. And that, but all the scriptures are more than 1,000 years old, written manuscripts. That shows the Bhagavatam is very old. And certainly all these verses were written down before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. There's no doubt about that. So we will discuss now 3 verses of the Bhagavatam which speaks about Lord Chaitanya. And the first verse is a verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. And I'm always impressed if I read these prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was 5 years old. And it is said the Supreme Lord is, Uttama Sloka is praised by excellent poetry. And this is excellent poetry. That how can a child of 5 years do that? It is in, of course, this is very long ago. People had a better memory, greater capabilities. And this verse, which is on the screen, on the board here, is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. It's not a typical Bhagavatam verse. It's a little longer. It has 14 syllables. And therefore it had a special meter. But if you know the melody, then you know the meter. And that is always, it's something I learned also from the old Gujarati Mahavishnu Goswami. I heard him singing these verses with such devotion. And all these meters, all these melodies got into my mind. That's how I started, actually, Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, I was reading Bhagavatam at home, and I tried to read them with the same melody of Mahavishnu Goswami. And that really, by that, it becomes, if you read 17,000 verses of the Bhagavatam, trying to repeat these melodies, then suddenly, at a certain moment, you get a feeling for it. But of course, Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't need to go to this school, but it's amazing. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Itam Nitiryach Rishidevaya Savatare. Lokam Vibhavayasi Hamsi Jagat Krita Patipam. Lokam Vibhavayasi Hamsi Jagat Patipam. Dharmam Mahapusha Pasijuganu Vittam. Channa kala yadavavastri yugata sattvam. Itam nitirya krisidevaya savatare. Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat prita pratipam. Dharmam mahapurusa pasi juganuvittam. Channa kala yadavavaste yogota sattvam. Itam nitirya visidevaya savatare. Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat pratipam. Dharmam mahapurusa pasi juganuvittam. Channa kala abhavaste yogata sattvam. Itam nitirya risidevaya savatare. Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat pratipam. Dharmam mahapurusa pasi juganuvittam. Channa kalo yadavavaste yugata sattvam. Itam nitirya risidevaya savatare.
Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat pratipam.
Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat pratipam.
Dharmam mahapurusha pasi yuganuvittam.
Dharmam mahapurusha pasi yuganuvittam.
Channa kalo yaktavavastri yugosta sattvam.
Channa kalo yabhavavaste yugata sattvam. Wat is het punt? Itam nitirya risidevaya savatare. Lokam vibhavayasi hamsi jagat pratipam. Dharmam mahapurusa pasi juganuvittam. Channa kala yadavavaste yogata sattvam. Word for word translation. Itam. In this way, like a human being, such as Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, Tiryak, like animals, such as the boar, Rishi, as a great saint, Parasuram, Deva, as demigods, Vyasa, as an aquatic, such as the fish and the tortoise, Avatarai, by such different incarnations, Lokan, all the different planetary systems, Vibhavayasi, you protect, Hamsi, you sometimes kill, Jagat Pratipam, persons who have simply created trouble in this world. Dharmam, the principles of religion. Mahapurusa, a great personality. Pasi, you protect. Yuga Anavritam, according to the different millenniums. Channa, covered. Kala, in the age of Kali. Yat, since. Abhava, have been. And will be in the future. Triyuga, name Triyuga. Atta, therefore, Saha, the same personality. Tvam, you. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a saint, a demigod, a fish, a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore you are known as Triyuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. In this verse, Prahlad Maharaj says, yes, in the age of Kali, you do not assert yourself as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are known as 3 yuga. You appear in 3 yugas. That means Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, but in Kali Yuga, you are Channa. That Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. Lord Caitanya, he blocked his ears with his hands, denying his identity with Krishna, because he was playing the part of a devotee. So it's very clear, Prahlad Maharaj is speaking about Lord Caitanya in this verse. But this is the first reference in the Bhagavatam. So we know in the purports, the Prabhupada, of course, quoted some of the other verses where of the Bhagavatam, where Lord Caitanya is glorified. So why did Lord Caitanya deny his identity with Krishna? First, he was playing the part of a devotee. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Sarvataram Prachiyam Mamikam Sramajam Tvam Saurabhavyam Kshishyam Majchva. Surrender unto me. But the characteristic of everyone in Kali Yuga is no one surrenders in Kali Yuga to anyone. And Lord Krishna knew this. That's one reason. But in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the yoga system is explained, there, Arjuna said to Krishna, this yoga system is impractical for me. It's like trying to control the wind and trying to control the mind. It's impossible. The mind is so obstinate, that shanshala flickering. I cannot do it, Krishna. And Krishna replies, yes, you can do it by detachment, and Prabhupada translates by appropriate practice. Appropriate. There is a practice appropriate for each age. And Krishna had not fully explained that process for Kali Yuga in Bhagavad Gita, although he pointed to it in the middle of the 9th chapter, Satatam Kirtayantamam, you always chant my glories. But how to do that? He knew he had to how to become a devotee. Krishna said, Machayi, Bhavamat Bhakto. How Bhavamat Bhakto, how to become a devotee in Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya came to show that. Therefore, he appeared as Bhakta Rupa in the form of his own devotee. That's the first reason why he was denying. But he knew also, and Prabhupada writes, Lord Chaitanya knew that in Kali Yuga there would be many bogus incarnations pretending to be God, and therefore he avoided asserting himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Lord Chaitanya is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vedic literature. And then he quotes the verse, another verse of the Bhagavatam, which we will discuss. But before discussing that verse, I want to go to other verse of the Bhagavatam, where it is from the 10th canto, chapter 8, text 13. This is Gargamuni. Gargamuni is doing the name-giving ceremony of Krishna in a cowshed in secret, because otherwise, if it would be a public event, then Kamsa may get to know it. So it's done in secret. And of course, Gargamuni is also an expert astrologer. He's a pure devotee. The pure devotee is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. Narada Muni was also Trikalagya. He knew past, present, and future. Because before Krishna, Krishna started to start all his pastimes, that Narada Muni visited Krishna and said, I want to see this pastime, and this pastime, all future pastimes. I want to see them. So he knew that it would come. So also, Gargamuni knew that in this verse 10.8.13, he describes all the incarnations for each yuga. And that's, he says, Asamvanastrayo yasyah hinato nu yugam tanu suklo raktas tatapita idanim krishnatam gatam. So, translation. So he speaks to Nanda Maharaj. And he says, your son Krishna appears as an incarnation in every millennium. In the past, he assumed 3 different colors, white, red, and yellow. And now he has appeared in a blackish color. So the white color is Hamsa avatar in Satya Yuga. The red is Shakya avatar in Treta Yuga. In Dwapara Yuga, he appears blackish as Krishna. But he says white, red, and yellow. Who is the yellow? So it's and now he has appeared in a black color. All such incarnations have now assembled in Krishna. But of course, this verse is we must see in the context of other verses of the Bhagavatam, like in the 11th canto. There, the incarnations are described for each yuga. Bhagavan has appeared in Pitta Varna, a yellow color. He appeared in the Pitta Varna as Gaurad Sundar. Also, although he speaks of Krishna Varnam, interesting. Krishna Varnam. This verse, Krishna Varnam, is also mentioned in the 11th canto, the 3rd verse that speaks about Lord Chaitanya. But Prabhupada writes in this purport 10.8.13, to adjust all these statements, one should understand that although in some yugas some of the colors are prominent, in every yuga, whenever Krishna appears, all the colors are present. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam. Also, although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears without Krishna, or blackish color, Krishna is black, without blackish color, he is understood to be Krishna himself. And that we find in this verse here of Kargamuni. It says, Idanim Krishna Tamgata. The same original Krishna who appears in different varnas has now appeared. This verse starts with Ashan. Ashan. It indicates that he's always present. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in his full feature, he is understood to be Krishna Varnam, although he appears in different colors. Prahlad Maharaj states that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Chana, that although is Krishna is covered by a yellow color. This is the Gaudiya Vaishnava. Thus, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas accept the conclusions that although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in Pitta color, he is Krishna. So, yes, that brings us to the 3rd verse of the Bhagavatam, which predicts Lord Chaitanya. And that is also the most quoted verse. That the 3rd verse we find in the 11th canto, chapter 5, text 32. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Shaknayi Sankirtana Praya Yanti Sumedasa. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of God, of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, his Krishna himself is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Srila Prabhupada writes, the entire Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principles of the Sankirtan movement inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, one who tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of Sankirtan movement knows everything perfectly. He is, he is Sumedas, that's the Sanskrit, a person with substantial intelligence. So I was discussing a few days ago with Purushottam Tirtha Prabhu in Antwerp. He wants to make a flyer in explaining who Lord Chaitanya is, and explaining him who Lord Chaitanya is, and quote scriptural references. And that was my inspiration to prepare this class here. But this is an issue. I was many times at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. And I was there a few times with John Mastami, and there come about 100,000 Hindus on that day of John Mastami. They come all to take darshan. It's a long row to take the darshan. But any of them you ask, because they come to see, there are three deities in the manner. Shishi Radha, Gokulananda, and then we have Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, and then in front you have Gauni Tiger, that's smaller. And you ask all these people, who is Caitanya Mahaprabhu? They don't know. 100,000. They come to say, they darshan, they don't know who Lord Caitanya is. But even if you quote scriptural references to them and so on, to accept Lord Caitanya to accept Lord Caitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart, you need mercy. You need mercy. Otherwise, you cannot accept. And that mercy comes here. That is what Prabhupada says in the purport here. Therefore, one who tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of Sankirtan movement knows everything perfectly. So if you chant the holy names and you practice devotional service, then you will be able to accept Lord Chaitanya in your heart. It's through the holy name. You get the faith from within the heart. So it's not just a scholarly acceptance with one's intelligence, but it's an issue. Like in Antwerp, you have Gauni time, that people come to see Lord Caitanya and Nityananda, but who are there? They are all Hindus. Many Hindus come. They don't understand that, and why do you accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya? Here, the evidence lies in getting the faith in your heart, and then you will be able to accept. But as an invitation to developing that faith, it's good to have scriptural evidence. That's one thing. That proves that is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. But also his pastimes. In his pastimes, Lord Chaitanya did so many things that are superhuman, that nobody else can do. And that we will speak about tomorrow, if time allows. So this is now evidence from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana, which is the highest Vaishnava scripture. But there's also evidence from the Mahabharata, that the Mahabharata, of course, is very old. That the story of the Pandavas is 5,000 years old and is broadly accepted by all the Hindus. And so I was looking at this reference in the Mahabharata, and this Mahabharata, this reference comes from a chapter that in the Anuasham Parva, where Yudhishthir Maharaj approaches Bhishma. Bhishma Dev is lying on a bed of arrows. We find that also in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavatam, but it's more elaborately explained in the Mahabharata. This when Bhishmadev lies on this bed of arrows, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking him questions. And that takes many days answering these questions. And he is asking questions regarding Dharma, of course. What is rightedness? What is the supreme deity? What is the path of liberation? So Bhishmadev heard all these questions, and based on these questions is going to state the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra, that the 1,000 names of Vishnu, that this is answer to all these questions by Bhishmadev. So first, to situate this verse, because to understand this verse wherein Lord Caitanya is glorified, we must understand the context in which it is spoken. That's important. This is chapter 127 of the Mahabharata, Anushasan Parva. And in the first verses, Yudhishthira Maharaj asks questions. He says, Kena nam shapanaiva priyate paramatmana. Whose name should we chant to attain the Lord? He says, second question, by chanting these names, can we become freed from bondage of birth and death? Can we be freed from samsara by chanting these names? And who is the only supreme God in this world? Important questions. And who is the ultimate refuge, Parayana, of all beings? By praising whom? By worshipping whom can one attain auspiciousness? What is the greatest dharma among all dharmas, in your opinion? So, Bhishmadeva, he hears this question. Bhishmadeva has been trained in the heavenly planets, because when Ganga, after his birth, took him to the heavenly planets, where he was trained in all dharmas, in all kinds of knowledge. So he was very learned. Bhishmadev is one of our 12 Mahajans. So he knew the answer. And this answer will be the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. So this takes place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Before quoting the verse, I just want to put it in the right context, because Bhishma answers the questions by reciting these 1,000 names of Vishnu, Vishnu Sahasranam, and said this chanting of these 1,000 names is the best practice for liberation and devotion to the Lord. Of course, Lord Caitanya will be more specific. In this age, which we don't have to chant these 1,000 names, we chant 16 names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It says chanting these names is the best practice for liberation and devotion to the Supreme Lord. It said Vishnu, Krishna, Vasudev is the Supreme God. It says, worshipping and praising him brings auspiciousness and liberation. Citing these names is the greatest dharma and the path of liberation from samsara. So, and then from verse 121 to 169, Bhishmadev explains, he recites these names there. And after reciting these 1,000 names, he explains the benefit of chanting these 1,000 names for Vishnu. He says, it has the power to purify one from karma. So now this verse of Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra it's in the chapter 127, text 148. The verse is as follows. Suvarna varno hemango varangas sadanagati Sanyasa Krishna Santo Nishta Shanti Parayana. The Supreme Lord appears with a golden complexion. His limbs are the color of molten gold. He will take sannyas, be fully controlled, and will be completely peaceful. So there's no doubt that this is a description of Lord Caitanya. That he appeared in a golden complexion. The golden complexion is the complexion of Srimad Radharani. That it's the mood, he appears in the mood of Srimad Radharani. Of course, Lord Caitanya has had many reasons to appear. That the first reason was to propagate the chanting of the holy name as the appropriate method for Kali Yuga. And then he came himself as a devotee to show how to be a devotee, what to do. But since he's Krishna himself, he has also internal reasons. They are explained in Caitanya, Caritamrita. And the first external reason is that he wanted to know Srimati Rani appears to be enjoying more than I'm enjoying. But why is she so attracted to me? I want to know what in myself, what attracts her. So, in other words, I want to experience the mood of Srimati Radharani. I want to experience her feelings of love and bliss. And therefore, he appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And the color of Srimati Radharani is golden, molten gold. And because he's in that mood, he appears in that molten gold. Yagamuni called it yellow, but golden mold. Yeah, here it's more explicit. That these are the internal reasons of the appearance of Lord Caitanya. Molten gold, the color of Srimati Radharani, and the mood of Srimati Radharani. So this is a very authentic quote. Because this Mahabharata, I did some research, and The oldest surviving copies of the Mahabharata date back to the 3rd or 4th century of our. So that's quite, it's 17th centuries ago, 18th centuries ago. But there are also copies found in the 10th and 11th century, in the 12th and the 13th century, up to the 14th century. But it's all before the appearance of Lord Caitanya. And the oldest copy, because we are speaking of the Vishnu Sahasranam. I did specific research. This Vishnu Sahasranam, what is the oldest copy found of the Mahabharata, wherein this 1,000 names of Vishnu is mentioned, and especially this verse of Lord Citing. And the answer I got was the 10th century. But many other copies were found before the appearance of Lord Caitanya. So that shows the authenticity of this quote in the Mahabharata, that the Supreme Lord appears with a golden complexion. His limbs are the color of molten gold. He will take sannyas, be fully self-controlled, and will be completely peaceful. So that's the Mahabharata. But then we have also other Puranic references. There is a mention in the Padma Purana. Copies of the Padma Purana we have found 300 to 500 years after Jesus Christ, current era. Also in the 12th and the 11th and the 12th century, Padma Purana. I don't have the verse number. I tried to find it. I tried to access Padma Purana on the internet through archives, and it is there, but my internet was too weak, and I could not find the verse. I could not check it, but therefore I don't have the verse number, but I have the Sanskrit and the translation on the Padma Purana. Padma Purana says, Muda pashanti tam gauram Krishnam sankirtanakyam. It says, fools do not recognize him as the golden Krishna, who has appeared to spread the Sankirtan movement. But that's very clear. That's very clear. That this verse from the Padma Purana is found in chapter 81 of the Padma Purana, and it's titled Mantra Shintamani for devotees of Krishna. This is a chapter which described, it's called, it's from a chapter in the Patala Kanda. Patal is the lower planetary systems called the nether worlds. So here on this earth we have the Netherlands, but you're also the nether worlds in the Padma Purana. So this verse emphasizes that those who are foolish fail. Those who are foolish, they fail to perceive the significance of Krishna's names, which is known as Sankirtanakyam. So yes. So what does it mean that this verse emphasizes that the transformative power of the holy name, and it's central to our chanting the holy name. So those who do not chant the holy name are not so intelligent. So that is, but there is also a quote of the Bhavisya Purana. It's another Purana that the Bhavisya Purana is known for its prophecies. A lot of prophecies in the Bhavisya Purana. And the verse here in the Bhavisya Purana discusses events and prophecies related to Dvapara Yuga and the earth. So it says, Iti Dvapare Urvisya Sukha Praha Mahatmane Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sangho Pangastra Pasadam. In Kali Yuga, the Lord appears in a golden form and spread the Sankirtan movement. So that's all very, very clear. In Kali Yuga, the Lord appears in a golden form and spread the Sankirtan movement. So these are very clear references. Of course, we have also references for in our tradition, the Caitanya Caritamrita. In the Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 81 and 82. Kali Yuga Lilavatara Nakara Bhagavan Attaivat Yuga Karikai Punam Sedvare Achanabaya Janma Gaurarayam Sedvara Bhaktabare Karyankikare. This is written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And said, in Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord does not appear as a lila avatar. Therefore, it's called a Yuga. But to deliver the devotees, he appears as Lord Gauranga in a hidden form, accepting the mood of a devotee. That is from Caitanya Caritamrita. So are these all the scriptural quotes of Lord Caitanya? That no, there are more. But there is one scripture, and this is interesting. There is the Caitanya Upanishad. And it is said that it's part of the Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda 3:12. So to understand that, we have to know what's an Upanishad. An Upanishad is the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas. There are 4 Vedas. There's Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, and Yajur Veda. And each of these Vedas has 4 parts. The first part is the hymn, the text, pure text, the verses, the hymn. And the second is called Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, if it's nothing to do with Brahmins, Brahmanas is the same text, but with between explications how to pronounce it correctly. Because the hymns were effective only when they were pronounced by pure Brahmins and pure recitation, pronunciation. And the third part for each for each Veda, the third part is called Aranyaka. Aranyaka means forest. This is the prescription. This was a prescription of how to perform a sacrifice for this Veda. That was usually done in the forest. That were big sacrifices. Only to build the sacrificial arena that took 1 month to build everything and prepare everything, or even longer, these great sacrifices. But everything is explained there, which ladle, which spoon to use, and which mantras to chant, and all the paraphernalia used for it. That's all described there. That's the third part. And the fourth part is called Upanishad. And that's the spiritual knowledge which is behind the hymns and the sacrifices. The spiritual knowledge. And we know, like Bhagavad Gita, it's called Kitu Upanishad. It's a summary of all the Upanishads. And there are proofs of that. Now, because some verses are practically identical. Prabhupada quotes that also in a verse in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And he quotes the verse from the Upanishad. It's practically the same, 2 words different. So that means that the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all spiritual knowledge. But each Veda had many Upanishads, many. And there are 64 main Upanishads, but in total there are 150, 160. And the Caitanya Upanishad is one of these Upanishads connected to the Vedas. But it's lesser known. It's lesser known. People don't know this Upanishad. But for the Gaudiya Vaishnava, it is very important. It is a part of the Atharva Veda, and it provides direct scriptural evidence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I was doing some research about the origin of this Upanishad in related to the Atharva Veda. So Sri Chaitanya Upanishad is a part of the Atharva Veda, which contains a mix of spiritual philosophy and mystical insights. So in general, Upanishads provide deeper spiritual knowledge, and this text reveals the divine identity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, describing him as the golden incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in Kali Yuga to propagate the Naam Sankirtan. So how did we get this Upanishad? This Upanishad was rediscovered by Brahmananda Sarasvati in Navadvip. Who was Brahmananda Sarasvati? But he did, before coming to that, he discovered it in Navadvip, which is the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Who was Brahmananda Sarasvati? He was a sannyasi of the Advaita Sampradaya, who is said to have discovered it in Navadvip, Bengal in the late 19th century. In late 19th century, he discovered it. And he presented it to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur recognized it as an important Vedic scripture. And he printed it. Some scholars, they say, yes, they doubt the authenticity of the scripture. But the devotees, they are accepted as Atharva Veda as an Upanishad of the Atharva Veda. It could have simply been unknown and later rediscovered. But what is a fact, and scholars cannot deny that. They cannot deny that the language of that Upanishad is very consistent with the Vedic text. Very consistent. So it's the same structure, the same style. So yes, but mostly we don't use this reference to the outside world, because scholars doubt it. But for devotees, it is all authentic, because it describes Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Godhead. Satchitananda Rupsa Gaurastvam Satchinandana, the Supreme Absolute Truth, whose form is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, is Gauranga, the son of Satchi. And then it describes Caitanya Mahaprabhu as the Yuga avatar. Mahamantram Japet Sangsashi Caitanya Dayanidim. One should directly chant the Maha Mantra to worship Sri Caitanya, the ocean of mercy. Third, and then it describes also Lord Chaitanya's form and his mission. Gauranga Balachandrasya Shatri Chanu Tvichottama Nama Sankirtana Praya Bhaktavat Avatar Evasya. The Supreme Lord will appear as Gauranga, the son of Satchidevi, and will be greatly devoted to the chanting of the holy names. So in other words, this Caitanya Upanishad establishes Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the first thing. It confirms that the Nam Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma for Kali Yuga. And it aligns with other scriptural references of Sri Caitanya. It also mentioned that is Chana Avatar, and hidden incarnations. So the main verse of this Caitanya Upanishad is Gauranga Balachatrasya Chachi Chunuh Vichottama Nama Sankirtana Kayo Bhakta Avatara Evacha. The Supreme Lord will appear as Gauranga, golden complexioned, the son of Satchi Devi, and he will be greatly devoted of the chanting of the holy names. So that were all the references that I could find. 3 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1 verse of the Mahabharata from the 1,000 names of Vishnu, and then 1 verse of the Padma Purana, 1 verse of the Bhavisya Purana, and then you have these 10 verses of the Caitanya Upanishad that I only mentioned a few of them. So, and this was the Shastric evidence that Lord Caitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And tomorrow we will prove that Lord Caitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead by looking at these pastimes, especially pastimes where he had, where he did miracles, supernatural, superhuman activities. Hare Krishna. Any question or comments?
So related to the Yuga avatars, who created the Yuga Dharma. So it's called like the white avatar was Kamsa, and black is Krishna, and yellow is Lord Caitanya. What did you say about the red?
That one is Jagya avatar.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Jagya avatar.
Okay. And what did he come to bring?
It's a process of performing fire sacrifices. Interesting, we do these things also. We have, because the process for Dwapara Yuga is deity worship. So we do deity worship. We do also sometimes yagyas. That's okay. But we can only do it on the strength of the chanting of the holy name. You cannot go on the altar if you don't chant 16 rounds and get Brahman initiation. For that, you need to chant your rounds. So in Kali Yuga, it must always be combined with the chanting of the holy name, also the fire sacrifice. So otherwise, we don't get the purity, but the purity comes to the chanting of the holy name. Does that help?
Yes, and actually I have a second question. So Krishna is the incarnate, so original Supreme Lord, but he comes in Dwapara Yuga. But he's coming like almost the last day of Dwapara Yuga, because when he disappears, it's Kali Yuga side. So why is he coming at the very end of the Dwapara Yuga? There's normally the incarnation comes earlier in the Yuga so that the people who follow will practice the Yuga Dharma. So why is he coming at the very end?
Well, I cannot speak on behalf of the Supreme Lord, but what I find well interesting is that is 5,000 years ago. It's not so long ago, and by that we have also the Mahabharata, and people of Kali Yuga can also be a benefit by it, and that may be one reason, but. Even if we find reasons for that, Lord Krishna has always many reasons to do something, and we see only a tiny bit of it. So who am I to speak on behalf of Krishna? It is said that in the Bhagavad Gita that is appearing out of his sweet will. So he appears out of his sweet will for this. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, similar sort of question, but Krishna only comes once in the day of Lord Brahma. So is there another blackish incarnation in regular Dwapara Yugas?
Yeah, Krishna appears once in the day of Brahma. And it is, I think he appears in the 28th Manu. There are 74 Manus, 28, and there in that millennium that he appears, the Treta Yuga and the Dwapara Yuga are swapped. That, and then Krishna appears. That's in the scriptures, that every day of Brahma, but he appears every day. But it is interesting because also in Kali Yuga he appears every day of Brahma. Because when Krishna appears, then he appears again as Lord Caitanya. But it is said in other millenniums, he appears also, but not as Krishna himself. There Lord Caitanya he appears as an avatar, not as Krishna himself. It's a bit complicated because Krishna, Lord Caitanya is not an avatar. Is Krishna himself. It's Krishna himself who appears. So Krishna Stu Bhagavan yeah, each Samskala Pusan Krishna Stu Bhagavan is in the Bhagavatam. So the Lord appears, is a fountainhead of all other incarnations. So in this Kali Yuga, he appears as Krishna himself, but in other days of Brahma, in Kali Yuga, he appears as an avatar. That's somewhere in the scriptures. I've got reference, but anyway, that's all I can say on it. Anything else? Yes, please. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
You are preparing people, something about Citing Mahabharata.
No, that's this Purusham Tirtha Prabhu wants to make flyers and explaining who Lord Caitanya is to new visitors. And that was the whole purpose of my research. And I did my best to come up with good references. But my conclusion is more or less, yes, the references to the Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, Padma Purana, Bhavisya Purana, these can be used, but the other references are more internal for devotees only. That's because outside Pandits will not accept that. Although there's no reason to not to accept this, because it is also authentic, proven in our tradition.
So this, I see these little leaflets, it will be made there in is there?
No, I don't. I have nothing to do with the Bhagavatam.
But it's good, a good reason to accept. See, also people, they are reciting in front of Caritamrita, this thousands names of
Yeah.
the Lord Vishnu. So, Vishnu Sangha. And but then I don't understand also who is Citing Mahabharata.
Yeah, then you can point out this verse of the Vishnu Sahasrara Totram. That's Lord Caitanya. It's there. That's it's good, but it may be good also to have that flyer here. That I leave up to the devotees here. That
What is the name of the?
Purushottam from Antwerp.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's also some.
Yeah, because there's also quite an Indian community there. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.